I am delighted to introduce you to our newest, the 2021 class of Distinguished Alumni. I am delighted to introduce to you our third awardee for the 2021 ISE Distinguished Alumnus. Ed White, on my left over here, is Chairman of the Board and CEO of Field to Base. Now, sometimes people retire, and sometimes they retire from their first or second careers, but Ed is not retired. He's running a company that does software, and one of the solutions relates to the pandemic. So we were talking about ideas the other day that where his company can contribute and some potential clients for him. Ed is a graduate of the engineering operations degree. That degree is no longer in existence, but the closest one to it is industrial engineering. And in addition, we just recently expanded a master's degree that has become the Masters of Engineering Management. And I also think that there's a very close connection between the goals of the engineering operations program and the goals of the MEM program led by Dr. Julie Ivey. So we're delighted that Ed can represent engineering operations, and I think he may be our first distinguished alumni from that group, so we're excited about that. Ed also spent a lot of time volunteering with the university, including on the engineering board for the Engineering Foundation. And one of the things about Ed is that he loves golf, and he determined that in his committee, people didn't get to really know each other. And so he started a golfing event that allowed people to really spend some time together and get to know each other. So I am delighted to introduce to you today Mr. Ed White.
First off, I'm honored and humbled to get this award, and after Patrick spoke, I've got to tell you a quick story. I started saying I'm older than most people in here, and I actually went to Clemson for a year in 1969, got smart, transferred to state in 70, and I was in mechanical engineering up to about my senior year and switched over to engineering operations, and Dr. Bill Easter had a lot to do with that. But when I was president of the Engineering Foundation Board, I had the opportunity to speak for the, I guess it was Engineering Week a couple times. They had a program one time, and it started out listing the events and so forth. Had Dr. Louis Martin Vega, had Dr. Jerome Lavelle, Dr. and they ended up having Dr. Ed White. And I looked at it and I thought, and I told the group, including Louis, who's a dear friend, I said, I barely got into state, I barely got out. I think Louis said, you started here and you got out here, so by that time you got to have a doctorate. But there's no question what I did at NC State was the key for my professional and business experience. My background is electric utilities. I worked for a little company called Westinghouse Electric Corporation. And that's part of the reason it took so long to get through school. In fact, my wife Kathy is here, and I've always said that if she hadn't come along, I may still be at State as a student today. So who knows? But I had a wonderful time at State during that time period there. And I'm kind of like Patrick. I was not the smartest guy, but I did a very successful startup company in 1980 involved in the metering industry, and I hired a lot of great engineers that most of them used to be, I had about 50 employees that were all NC State graduates at one time. I finally broke down and hired someone somewhere else one time, but that was kind of the standard that I set there. I merged with a company called Itron in '96, which I in 2002, and I retired off of that. And so I spent most of my life traveling around the world. And at one time I used to joke and say I knew more people in Sydney, Australia than I did in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is pretty bad when you think about it. I had the opportunity to join the Engineering Foundation Board, and that's when Nino Mastinari was their dean. And so at that time, I think it was kind of the old days, if you got on that board, you stayed there until you either died or retired or you just quit going. But we really did put some things in place to some new covenants with term limits and so forth. And I got to meet some really wonderful people, guys like Ed Fitz. Everybody sees Ed behind me here, but he's a dear friend. Louis Martin Vega, that most of you know, Paul Cohen, Julie. I mean, these are the wonderful people. And when you don't live, you live here, but you don't work here, you lose a lot of the local community. And to me, the fun part was getting engaged with people here, and I'm still engaged with them today. So I am truly honored to have this recognition. And just like Patrick and everyone else, what state did for me gave me the opportunity to go out and do things that probably would never have happened without having that degree. And one thing about engineering operations is that I did all the hard courses in mechanical, from thermo to differential to whatever, statics. But what engineering operations did gave me a great background in I'll call it basic finance and also communications. And so to be a great engineer, you can't just be an engineer in theory, but you do have to have the ability to get up front of the group and speak, and you got a little bit of knowledge of finance, if you will. And that really puts a total package together as far as an engineering grad goes, in my opinion. But I am very appreciative of Julie, Industrial Systems Engineering, and all of you for taking the time coming this morning. And I'll assure you, I will cherish this forever. And thank you very much. And go Pats.